alcohol. I was into kickboxing and boxing in college, and my coach was got into yoga, and he heard that Mount Shasta is the spiritual center of the world. So he invited me to go climb Mount Shasta with him. And I did not know what Mount Shasta was, but I agreed. And when we went, we ignored everything that you have to bring to climb a mountain. When we got into the 5th season, which is the store that rents your gear, we asked what we needed, and they told us we need ice axe, crampons, and the usual things that you need to climb a snowy peak like this one. And since he was hardcore and he was just in Afghanistan, and he was a strong guy, he was like, screw that crap. Let's rent a skiing pole and go up it. And I was like, okay. No, I was supposed to be tough since I was a boxer, so I went along with it. And it was a horror show, and somehow I got to the top with a giant headache and altitude sickness because we did not spend any time acclimating, and we did not leave at the right time. So everybody that were coming back from the summit, like when they saw me in my snowboarding outfit and a club t-shirt, they were like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "Where is the summit?" And they're like, "Well, it's about another 40 minutes up there. It's easy now. You should go up there now, I guess." And so I hated the experience. The running shoes that I wore gave me blisters. But when I graduated, from nursing school, I started working at a place right nearby here, which is called Golden Castle, and it's a daycare center for seniors. I met another Russian-speaking guy from Kazakhstan who saw me and was like, "Hey, I know you. I heard you're another Russian climber." And I'm like, "No, I'm not." He basically just saw my pictures from Shasta because we had similar friends on Facebook. And I was like, "No, I'm not gonna climb with you." And somehow it turned out that he started taking me on trips, and we went in early 2010. We went to do different little peaks in Tahoe area, like Tulak and Bibbs Peak and Pyramid, different little peaks they crown off too. And then, but just to let you know that if you thought I was good at skiing, I'm not. And that's only the approach. And by the time I was down Shasta, I probably knew how to do a cartwheel better than I knew how to do a third. So the big thing that attracted me to climbing mountains was our trip to Mount Whitney in the winter of 2010. Whitney is such a beautiful area that I think it's really hard to ignore how amazing the scenery around is. And that, yeah, yeah, those are the east ledges. In giant mountaineering boots with 40, 50-pound pack, they really suck. And so it was the hardest thing I've done until that point in March of 2010. And I got really addicted to the challenge of mountaineering. Later on, me and my friends went out to do Rainier in June. And then I started scrambling in the Sierra. And I did this thing called the Sierra Challenge. Maybe some of you heard about it. It's 10 peaks in 10 days. So doing things around the Sierra really exposed me to different areas and showed me how varied the mountain range that we have around here is. This is the Incredible Hole, by the way, and it has multiple routes on it. Yeah, recently me and my friend did something of this coordinate system, as I remember. And I probably have done 5 routes on it by now. But just seeing it back then in 2010 was like, it was a totally different experience because I saw climbers on it and I could not understand how they could be up there. Sierra Challenge was about hiking mostly and about doing big day hikes. So you do about like 6,000 to 8,000 feet of elevation day, elevation gain a day with up to 20 miles or 25 miles, and they do it for 10 days in a row. But you get to see all these incredible places like this, and these are the minarets. Aside from being really pretty, the Clyde Minaret right here has one of the 50 classic climbs called the Southeast Face. And this place is actually really historic for the Sierra because in 1931, when Robert Thunderhill came out, he was invited by Francis Farquhar, who was the president of the Sierra Club by then, to teach rope work for the Sierra Club. And he recruited some of the top members of the Sierra Club to participate, and some of them included Jules Ainthorn, Norman Clyde, Glenn Dawson, and a few others. And they went out after doing some practice in the minarets. They went out and climbed the last 14er in California, which was Thunderbolt Peak right there. And it was called Thunderbolt because they almost got struck by lightning on the way down. So that was really revolutionary for the High Sierra climbing, being able to do a peak like that using ropes and protection. And actually the anniversary of that day is going to be tomorrow. They climbed it on 13th of August in 1931. So High Sierra has a lot of other peaks, and this is Marion Peak. It has a really cool climb up this buttress, which is really popular with people. It goes at 10B, and there's a few other Peter Croft routes on it as well. Sierra has beautiful flowers and incredible lakes with pretty reflections of other peaks. Hot tubs and amazing sunrise panoramas. And even when it's stormy, it's still beautiful most of the time. And this is Mount Darwin in the Evolution region. So when I got into climbing, I realized, and this is Mount Shasta by the way, again, I realized that a lot of people get rescued and get into accidents, and me and my friends were not the most efficient people out there. This is me beaving under the summit of Mount Humphreys in winter without a sleeping bag or sleeping pad. I'm totally unprepared. But at least I had my backpack and a rope for a pad right there. We ended up actually summiting the peak the next day, which was a really good challenge for that time. And so because of all these things that could happen, I joined the American Alpine Club, and they actually provide you with insurance, and they provide grants for people to do different climbs, even if you're not a professional athlete. So for my trip to the Bagaboos later on in 2012, and for our trip to Peru, me and my friend got grants, which was really nice because we are, the regular climbers like you guys. So then I got into winter mountaineering, and this is Mount Carl Heller, which has this class 4 route. And doing it in winter was a real challenge. Till this day, I remember how difficult it was to traverse exposed ledges with sugar snow on top. It's really a different experience. And these are the Palisades. My friend and I traversed from Sill to Starlight in winter, 2012. This is Third Pillar of Dana, which we also climbed in winter. That was probably the first time it was climbed in winter. I mean, not Mount Dana, but third pillar of Dana. Yeah. And this is an exposed ledge on the climb, which is pretty nuts. And so, when I began climbing, I thought that the tallest peaks were the hardest ones. And after a year of climbing, I went out to Mount Denali with my friend. And this is actually not Denali, this is Foraker. And this is Hunter. Denali was a beautiful place as well, and a big challenge for that time because we were doing it unguided and we had only a year of experience under our belt. And after doing it, to be honest, I changed my mind about the perception of height and mountains because the mountains usually are not difficult due to their height, but due to the terrain you're climbing on. And after doing Denali and summiting, we went out, and that was my reward for summiting.
Oh man.
Yeah, this burger was on Men vs. Food, and the original burger from the show was actually twice as big as this one. This one was enough for me, to be honest. And that's me out there. So, after Denali, we went out to do Liberty Ridge and Rainier, which goes up on this prominent ridge in the center. And it was as difficult as climbing Denali, but it took a lot less time and it was really scenic, and I enjoyed it a lot. So when I got back to the Sierra, I got more into technical climbing because scrambling was not as challenging anymore. And this was Temple Crag, and this is the Tyrolean Traverse. The friend that took me out was Ben Ford, and he was a big inspiration to me because he did it all. He was an ultra runner that ran 100-mile races. That's him on the summit. He ran, he biked from Badwater, which is below the sea level, to Whitney Portal, and climbed up to the top of Mount Whitney in a day, which has basically over 14,000 feet of elevation gain. He climbed hard rock, and he was a big inspiration in general. He was a nice guy, he was religious, and he was also pretty well off in school. He was basically a well-rounded person, and he ended up dying in Peru a year after I met him, and I always wanted to do a climb in his memory, but back then I just was not able to because I knew that his standards were high, and I don't think if I did a 5'9" climb in the High Sierra car to car with a partner, that would bring his spirit on. So I'll get back to that later a bit. So I got into climbing, and it took me to some really cool places around our own mountain range. This is the Panic Pillar. And this was Acorn Pinnacle, which was named after Jules Acorn, which was one of those original Sierra Club members. This one? It's a Crystal Crag. It's in Mammoth area. It has a nice 5'7" route on it. Really a scenic place. This is the Panic Pillar, which is right next to the Cathedral Peak.
Who took your picture on Acorn? Someone from Cathedral, right?
Actually, my friend Chad did. We did it together. And he rappelled down and went up to Cathedral and took the picture, which is really cool. Climbing takes you to some amazing places. These are the Needles in southern Sierra. And it is sort of like, to me, it's sort of like art of movement over rock. As if you're a dancer flowing to music, you could be an artist flowing up a rock face, finding holds and finding little challenges, overcoming your fears. As I said before, it takes you to alpine ridges, scrambling up boulders. You can find yourself in multiple different states with different scenery, and it's interesting to explore all the places that we have around here. Being on top of spires or climbing over roofs. And you don't even have to climb really hard to be in a cold place and take a good photo. For example, this climb is rated only 5.7, but with some camera tilt, it could look really hard. And climbing is probably the most enjoyable with people that you like to hang out with. And just in case you guys thought climbers are very serious people, I have to tell you that we are not at all serious, and we don't always look cool when we are doing our climbs. Sometimes it's even better to have people that are more like kids than grown-ups around, because it's way more fun to suffer when you have a smile on your face. And in 2012 I got out to Bugaboos, and that's where the notion of difficult climbs and challenges are really important to me. That's when I realized that's what I really like. And it was a really stunning place as well. Kind of like Sierra, it had addition of glaciers, and those are actually small climbers on the ridge up there. We climbed multiple peaks there, which include Pigeon Spire, Snowpack Spire, Southhauser Tower, and Bugaboo Spire. Yes, thank you. And this is the Southhauser Tower, which has the Becky Chenard route on it that goes up this ridge, and that was the highlight of my summer in 2012. Probably a really beautiful location, and we were rewarded with this nice sunset as well. And we got out to to do a few climbs in the North Cascades. We did the Backbone region, Dragon Tail Peak, Prusik Peak, PS South Face, and then we did the full North Ridge of Stewart, which is a nice climb. Cascades were awesome too because they had their own scenery, their own animals that were around, and it was just nice to experience a different range. And then I got into some ice climbing, went to Highlight and led my first Water Ice 5 routes, which sometimes mean really bad protection and really scary, but sometimes they have good protection and very strenuous climbing on them. One of the routes is, this one is called the Cleopatra's Needle, and it goes up these icicles of this big long pillar, which was just incredible to be able to climb on something that fragile looking. And as you see, it didn't even touch down, so getting on it was really sketchy. Basically, I had to climb inside this chimney and then turn the corner, which kind of makes you feel like you're, I don't know, in a climbing video or something. Like you're doing real climbing moves, not just swinging tools. And yeah, it was really fun. I was happy that day. And I did some ice climbing in the Sierra too. This is Mount Mendel, and we did the Mendel floor right over here. Ice 9 is the floor on the left, and sometimes it forms and sometimes it doesn't. I hope it forms one day for me and I get to climb it. It's my friend Max, and this is Mount Hood in Oregon. Supposedly, me and my friend did a first ascent on it. This is the watchtower in the High Sierra, and the ice wasn't quite formed, so I had to do some rock climbing on the right to join the ice later on. The conditions were pretty terrible, and we were actually hit by multiple flash avalanches, but the climbing was really fun. And our friends behind us actually experienced a big avalanche that broke off right under their feet when they were coming up behind us to the summit. And across, the cool thing about climbing is that you get to explore a lot. And right across from the watchtower were these domes that I had not known anyone that climbed in them. So after doing some research, I found out there was only a few routes that were put up. And probably some of the finest granite for rock climbing is found in Yosemite. And it could look very different from summer to winter. Yosemite is probably known mostly for its granite walls and waterfalls. My first big wall climb was up this pillar called the Lacero Spire. And my friend in this photo actually, she's not waving, she's actually flipping me off because she could not figure out how to Jumar across this gap, so I had to like haul her off. And after being on the wall for 4 days, it was just annoying. In Yosemite, you can't really get your eyes off the walls that are right across from you, and as soon as you see a wall across, you want to climb it. And that's the northwest face and Half Dome, which me and my friend climbed last year. And this is my other friend that I sometimes bring for emotional support when I'm really scared.
He's Honolulu, right?
He's Honolulu. And that was actually before Honolulu became Honolulu.
That was before?
Yes. So he was the original one. And then some guy in the magazine took it off. So when you climb something really popular, you end up carrying out a lot of garbage that other people leave. So I think it's a very important part about climbing. This is El Cap, which is in Yosemite, and it's probably of course it is the face of Yosemite, and whenever people go to Yosemite, they always look up El Cap and want to climb it. I was lucky to do a few routes on it last year. And as a mountaineer, I think what attracts me to climb, for example, the nose, is the line it takes. The hardest climbs on El Cap are probably up these, like on this side of the wall. And it involves a lot of aid climbing, a lot of very scary aid climbing. But usually what I like about climbing is majority free climbing, where you use your hands and feet and are not as scared. This is the effect that the lava flow of Horsetail Falls. In the falls, it makes this effect of a flowing firefall when you look at it from a certain angle during the sunset. So another route I climbed that was this wall. I attempted one up here, and there's a free climb that goes up this buttress that I've done. It has perfect granite, and that's us under the giant roof up there. And this is my friend doing the king swing. We did it in winter month, and the waterfall was really obvious from the ledge where we slept on in the morning. That was kind of cool, I thought. after a whole bag where we stored our gear and the excitement that we experienced. And when you look across, there's other giant rock formations that you want to climb. And this is my friend Gleb. I really like climbing with him because he's not very serious, and we usually end up having a lot of fun. And even when the going is tough, it ends up being a fun adventure. Even when we go through really annoying overhanging chimneys, it somehow ends up being fun, or climbing over roofs. There's always something else to look at in Yosemite. And sometimes we are braiding. And it's so cool. And back to El Cap. And one thing about big wall climbing that is not as cool as the exposure of the walls is the hard work that you put in to get up them, because staying on the wall for several days in a row involves a lot of hard work. But back to the High Sierra, this is the Hulk again, and it has a lot of good routes. This is my friend on Positive Vibrations. This is somebody else climbing on Sunspot. Actually, this is a professional climber, Joe Kinder. And this is on Polish route. This is my friend's on Trade Winds route. Me and my friend actually climbed when we met you that time. This one was really hard. It's rated as 11D, and it was just very desperate. And this hand crack and Positive Vibrations was really cool. This is back in Trade Winds where things are vertical and holds are shrimping on. And this is actually the Camelot that fell out from somewhere underneath.
Is that the traverse where you said you fell, or you?
No.
No.
And there's other spires in the canyon too. There's another climber there. Mount Kness. It has a really cool route that I climbed up this base. In this picture, you can actually see it somewhere right here, I think, right there. My other friend took it from the West Ridge when she sold it. And it has some really old gear on it too that you are not excited to clip at all. But old things are really cool. Like this picture of Castle Rock Spire really inspired me to try and get out there and climb it. It's considered as one of the hardest summits in the High Sierra. And I like challenging things. So last year, a few friends climbed the route of this face right here. They 8 climbed it up a really cool looking crack system, and I wanted to free climb it instead of doing the regular route which goes up this buttress. So we got out there, and unfortunately the free climbing didn't quite happen, and we failed, so to say. But that actually is very debatable because you still experience really cool stuff. Like this is the original bolt, homemade by John Salate. And on the first attempt of the first ascent of the spire, they tried to take that east face, but they did not succeed because my friends then climbed it last year for the first time. But he left this relic up there, and it was nice to see it. And that's me soaking up the failure. And so, as you guys mentioned before, when you don't succeed on the climb, you can think of it as a failure, but then at the same time it's not, because you actually are pushing yourself to do something that it has a big chance of failing. And that's in its own way is a success because you are challenging yourself. And mountaineering would not be as fun if you didn't challenge yourself constantly. And exploring different areas and different rock types is also really interesting to me. This is Mount Wilson in Red Rock Park, and I got a chance to climb this base on it this spring, actually. I think it's one of my favorite faces that I've seen around, one of my favorite faces for a rock climb, for sure. It has really good views, and I did it with a partner that I actually just met on the internet for that climb because my friend sprained an ankle. So use internet, it helps a lot. And Red Rock had its own type of animals as well. And that's another cool wall that we climbed. It takes this center line. It's called the Rainbow Wall. And it's also really pretty, I thought. When it comes to climbing, I think pretty lines at peaks is what I enjoy the most, along with the challenge. So, as I said before, if you don't challenge yourself, you don't really experience. You don't fail. But then you don't really succeed because, like for example, if I knew I can do a fourth class peak, and I constantly do fourth class peaks, what's the challenging it if I know I can do it and it's not as fun. So usually, lately this year, I realized that I don't have as much fun doing the routes that are climbed very often or at all. So I switched over to trying first ascents more often. And this is Castle Dome. And I knew that there was a route that went up this depression right there. And I did not know about any other route. So me and my friend went out there a month ago or so and did a new route that goes up this buttress. And it was incredible. Yet it turned out to have good climbing, good scenery, difficult moves as well, and really cool dikes going across. And knowing that nobody has done it before was a pretty cool experience. And then we got into storm like everyone else. On the hike out, thank God. And me and some of my other friends were developing this dome that I saw across from the watchtower, and we ended up climbing some really good routes on it. It has beautiful rock that's not very common to the High Sierra. And for protection, instead of cams and nuts, sometimes you get to sling these knobs, and it would hold your fall if you do fall. And it prevents, actually helps you to avoid bolting the rock, which is quite annoying. And then my friend and I did a new route of the Sphinx, which is out of the Kings Canyon. And this route was almost 2,000 feet and had climbing up to 511. And also a first ascent, which was really cool. We knew that there were a few routes that go up to this sub-summit, but there was nothing that was climbed on the main portion. And as two adventurous guys, were like, yeah, let's go and let's climb the main face, car to car, first ascent. And, there, just to get to the base of the climb, you have to gain over 4,000 feet of elevation gain. And then if we could not see cracks, that would be good. It would go up the face, which was about 800 feet. So we had to drop down a ways into the canyon and then climb this, basically a giant route that was almost 2,000 feet. And it took us almost the whole day to do it. So this is about the halfway point. We actually started from way below there. this is another peak that I was dreaming about for years. I heard about some people climbing a route up this face, but it wasn't a free route. It was an incline, and supposedly the only climb that was done up the face. But they didn't reveal where this peak was, and I had no idea, and they would not tell anyone. So it took me about 3 years to search for this peak and finally find it. And I was actually able to free climb the line up the middle and do another new line up this corner, both of which were really good rock climbs. And I found an overhanging hand crack on this line, on this route that was probably went on for 40 meters or so. And it was just an incredible experience to have something of that quality be unclimbed in the High Sierra, which I thought was pretty much impossible. Everything that's good has been climbed, right?
Where is
Not.
this?
Top secret. Top secret.
So I thought it would be a good idea to keep the place more of a secret adventure in the spirit of the first ascensionists that left. They basically left the adventure factor high for other people to find the place, to do their homework, and explore the range to find it. And I was really grateful for that because it took a lot of hard work to actually find the place first and then climb something without knowing where to go. So I think it's basically better for everyone to have some adventure available because you have many guidebooks, there are many routes that are climbed, and you have topos, you have everything to go up the routes. But there's not many peaks that have good climbing, and you don't know anything about them. So like, if you want to do them, you will have to really, put your work into it and find them.
So,
And this is actually a picture from this weekend. This was also another new route that me and my friends started, which the first pitch involves 55 meters of this amazing dike. And this pitch was so hard that we were not able to do all the clean from top to bottom, and it will take some hard work to free climb, I think. But it will be probably a 5-12 as a rock climb. But what I was saying before, if you don't really get on climbs that are very hard and you don't risk failing, then you will never find those overhanging hand cracks that were not climbed, and you will not find these undone amazing dikes. So sometimes failing is actually the way to success, in my opinion. So now to Peru. We started our trip from this nice area, and it has lots of peaks around Chipipaki and Huascaran. There's multiple peaks in the area that we wanted to climb, and just took pictures of. This is Chacaraco from a different side. We climbed one of the peaks of that peak. This was our tent, and a really beautiful sunset before we climbed the Sphinx of Peru, which does not look like the Sphinx of California. Actually, I think the one in High Sierra looks more like the Sphinx. This looks more like the dome. We ended up climbing this face up to the top, and it's considered to be the nicest big wall in Peru, which was actually pretty good. Had good climbing, and the scenery was not bad too. This is Coandoy. We have not climbed this peak, but it's beautiful nonetheless. Interesting thing about Peru is that there was really good sport climbing, and it helped a lot to acclimate because the sport climbing was at 14,000 feet. In the the peaks out there were from 18 to about 20,000 feet, basically about 6,000-meter peaks all around. There were some petroglyphs around the sport climbing area, which was kind of interesting to look at. And the funniest thing that happened to us during the trip is after doing one of the mountains, we came over to this area called Hatun Machai, where the sport climbing is, and they had a north face competition there going on, and the organizers were like, "Hey guys, you just join in. You have 10 minutes to prepare." Huh? Okay. And we basically just jumped in, and we were able to place second behind some Peruvian pro climbers that are over there, which was really cool and unexpected. We got to stay in this hut in the sport climbing area, and Peru is very well known for its mountains and hallucinogenic drugs. This was something that the locals did to hallucinate somehow. I'm not sure how they prepared it, but it was really interesting to watch. Me and my friend, on the other hand, we don't even drink alcohol, so we were into making a pizza. So we did some other rock climbing there. There's this climb called the Astroman of the Andes, and it has a 6-foot overhanging roof that you have to get over, which was pretty strenuous. The climbing was really fun, not as good as the Astroman of Yosemite, but still pretty good. And the rappelling from it was steep as well. This is one of the flowers, the cacti in Peru. And this is Chacarajo. I think that we climbed up this face right here. The face is over 3,000 feet, and this peak is 6,000 meters. The climb was rated ED1, which is harder than anything that I heard of any of my friends or acquaintances doing in Peru. It's kind of, ED1 would be like climbing the north face of the Eiger, for example. And aside from being difficult, it was very dangerous due to the overhanging cornices that were en route. The camping, though, was incredible. We camped at the base of the mountain, right on those shores of this lake. And it was just a stunning place to be. The water was really clear, and the views right outside our tent were amazing. This is another lake on the approach to Chacarajo. So, the majority of the face actually was not that bad, but it was getting to the summit that involved a lot of scary climbing. A lot of the climbing in these sections was not very well protected, so you get to climb on really bad ice. You can't really put screws in it, and some sections were pretty steep. And you have all these icicles right above you, all these gargoyles, and when we got to the summit ridge, we actually had to traverse over and then get on the summit cornice from there, because there was no way to get up on top from where we were. The snow was sugar, so you can't really have any purchase with your ice tools in it. There was no ice anymore, and it would be vertical, and when you are traversing it, it would basically collapse under your feet, and you couldn't really protect it. So it was a really interesting situation to be in. This is an approach to the peak. It took us a day just to break the trail, because nobody climbs this peak really, and there's no trail that would lead you to the base. Versus on popular climbs, you would have a good trail that would lead you to the summit. This is the view of the Huascaran in the morning as we were climbing up. And I think this is me leading with some scary icicles above me. This is me following a ditch. Basically, you had very steep snow and ice underneath the snow. And the snow would be collapsing, and it would just be really scary. There's pictures of the water ice that I climbed. That was water ice 5. I would rather climb that any day than doing anything on this face. Basically, what happened was I built a belay here on good ice, and my friend started leading. It probably took him 2.5 hours to finish the lead, and I could not understand what he was doing because he was in one spot for maybe 2 hours. Turned out that he was actually trying to dig through a cornice. After digging through a cornice and trying to chimney through it didn't work, he tried to aid climb it. He tried to pound a picket, a snow picket, into it and pull up to make progress. But only one cornice would actually be a good placement. Everything that was above it would not hold. And he actually took a he took a fall on the cornice he was trying to aid from, and then he traversed down and into this notch and built a belay from bad gear. And what was really scary is when I started climbing, I got up there, and this was the only good gear on traverse. But at least when I was traversing, I could see the gear there. And I would think it's sort of safe, and then I would take it out and I would say, oh, that was a crappy screw, that was a crappy picket, okay. But this was the only good one. And after I took it out, I had to down climb and traverse for about 40 feet. So it was kind of like doing down leading. And if I fell, I would basically go for a big ride into all this ice jump. And the climbing was, just imagine vertical snow, sugar snow that you can't really purchase, and it just collapses under your feet as you are traversing. It wasn't really fun.
So you were doing simultaneously climbing too?
What?
It was one of the rope lines, right? So.
It was exactly a rope line.
Oh, okay. So you-
No simul climbing. Thank God, no.
Yeah.
How did you recover?
So that's what I'm actually gonna talk about next. That's the another fun part. By the time we got to the summit, we were in pretty much a full whiteout, and this is the only second where I was able to take a picture of the other peak of Chaparral from the summit ridge. And the summit ridge is, it was really freaky to traverse because my friend Ben was talking about earlier. He died by on the ridge because the double cornice collapsed, and he pulled his partner to his death as well. So you can't really protect these traverses and these cornices because the pickets that you would place there are sort of useless, to be honest. And when we got to the summit, we were happy, and then we realized we have to get off it, and we definitely cannot down climb. And the snow on top is sugar. So setting up a picket for a rappel would be really sketchy. So we did the best we could in making a picket stick into the snow. We basically put all the snow that we could on top of the picket. We compressed it. We put more snow, compressed it again, and directed it down in a direction to direction of coming down. So it would run over the ridge, and the only way that the picture would fail is if it goes all the way through the coordinates. So it was, we were pretty sure they would not fail, but still, before one of us repelled, we're like, well, let's play rock, paper, scissors for who's doing it. And I won, and I got to go first, because if I lost and he went first, then I would just be stuck on the summit, waiting for my death rather than fall to my death, which would be a quicker. Alright. So on the way down, then we repelled from ice anchors, which are V-threads. You put a screw in one side and the other, and then you thread your rope through it, and we would always back it up by a nice screw next to it as well as a backup in case this setup fails. And this was really scary. And we got when we got back to town, we ate a lot. This is actually cuy, which is guinea pig in Peru, and it is national food, and it is actually quite good. And some chocolate pie was really good to have. And we started doing more. Thinking about our experience and how dangerous it was, and doing more research, and we actually found out that from the guys that we talked to in the research and rescue office, we found out that many more people die on the peak than summit, and the last summit that they heard about was about 5 years ago. So I did more internet research, and Nick Bullock, who is like the English version of Steve House, he did the route that we did with some kind of a direct variation, but did not summit. In his blog entry, he wrote, "The summit was not climbed to as life appeared more favorable." And so after that, me and my friend thought to ourselves that maybe doing any climbs that would not be so wise, and we did not really enjoy this type of climbing. So we got back to chasing llamas and climbing just beautiful peaks that would not involve such scary climbing. This is actually Chopikaki, which I got to climb. It has kind of a scary glacier approach, pretty views. This was actually on our tip list, and we decided against it. And these are Huandoys. When I went to climb Chopikaki on the summit day, I took this picture as I was climbing up to the top. And this was probably one of my favorite pictures of the trip because of the beauty of the sunrise. And this is the summit pyramid on Chopikaki. And as you see, there is a beaten trail to the top, which was really nice to have. And what we realized is that when you are climbing in Cordillera Blanca, you don't have to climb like everyone else, and as long as you are acclimated, you can climb your trips as if you're climbing in Sierra or something. So this is the highest peak in Cordillera Blanca, which is almost 7,000 meters, and we climbed it in 2 days, car to car. It involves probably over 13,000 feet of elevation gain, but if you're fit and acclimated, you can do it. And this climb actually had a funny story to it as well. When me and my friend, we stayed at Refugio, which was about halfway up the mountain, like when we got there. And people set up usually another 3 camps along the way before they plan their summit push. So when we started, about an hour from the last camp, we saw a crowd of people with headlamps up there, just not moving, just standing, and we didn't understand what's going on. So as we got there, we approached the crowd of people, and we were like, "Hello, hello," and nobody said a word to us. We didn't understand what was going on and why these people were so antisocial or something. So we started moving away from camp, and we realized there's no trail, and these people were waiting for us to get there to break the trail. So basically, you see that crowd of people, they were following us all the way in our footsteps as we broke trail to the summit. And we actually, I think, were the first people to summit that month, which was pretty cool. And, the summit was not very exciting. It was just this big flat area. But after climbing something like Chakaraki, where you appreciate being in a big flat area, you don't have to set up any rappelling or down climb anything very scary. This was another peak called Kayesh that we wanted to climb, but conditions were not good for it because my friend Kristen designed were really bad. I ended up soloing some other peak in the area that had really scary ice falls, but pretty good views. And I believe this face is on climb, which is kind of nice. Peru had really nice scenery, and I think it's appropriate for all kinds of outdoor enthusiasts. If you want to go hiking, there's amazing hikes around. There's easy peaks around where somebody that has no glacier travel could learn. It has sport climbing and trad climbing, so it pretty much has it all. If you want to visit a new area, there's multiple things that you can do there and enjoy yourself. The prices are cheap, the views are good, the people are nice, and there's a lot of different things, like different looking flowers, and this is on the way to Alpamayo, which Alpamayo is actually considered to be in the top 10 of the most beautiful peaks in the world. And it was on our list, and we were lucky enough to climb it. These are the views of other peaks on the way. And these don't get climbed almost ever. I think this peak had only one ascent in history. And this is Kitarahu, which is a peak across from Alpamayo, and we climbed it on the day before climbing Alpamayo, which was also really cool. It was our first 6,000 meter peak. This is Artisan Rapo, which is another peak that you see hiking towards Alpamayo. This is actually a peak that's on the logo of Paramount Pictures. And Alpamayo is considered to be a top 10 most beautiful peaks for a reason. It really is stunning. When you get over the pole and see it for the first time, it's quite a scene. And this is Kitarahu. We climbed this north face and then traversed this ridge to the summit, which was really cool. And nobody was climbing that peak. The whole camp was climbing Alpamayo. So we have to break trail again. And this is the view of my from Palo Alto, which is pretty cool.
When or when? When?
And then you have to do an exciting bridge to the summit as well. And that's us excited on top. And we're heading back down. The ice was a lot better on this peak. And another view of Altamaya. There's the regular route goes up like in this depression. And we took the French direct route which goes up this depression and directly to the summit, which was a fun one. It's my friend climbing. And an interesting story about our climb here was that since Altamaya is very popular and there are many guided parties that go up it, all of them usually start at midnight and repel sometime by maybe 11 in the morning or so. So me and my friend did not want to be stuck behind other people kicking ice or dropping gear. Many of the people that climb in with guides are not very fit for it, so it takes them the whole day to do it. So our idea was we started at 10:30 a.m. in the morning, and we got on the climb when everybody were almost off the face. So we did not really have to deal with crowds, and we got down right as the last party got down. So, and my friend broke his tool on the way up, and I had to delay him up many pitches. We were planning to simul climb the whole route. This is my friend on top as well. He came along for the ride. It was a freeloader, I carried him up there. And another view of Altamaya during the sunset, which was just amazing to observe in person. So I would like to encourage everyone to get out there and experience it for yourself. So when I got back to the High Sierra that year, I was not super happy with climbing in Peru for the reason that I like climbing a lot of mountains. I like different environments, and in Peru you have to kind of dedicate almost a week to a peak sometimes. Not a week, but maybe 5 days. But it's not something I like a lot. I usually just like a lot of climbing. And I missed High Sierra. And I had this idea that I didn't know if it was possible or not, because I have not heard of anyone who has done it, which is to do the evolution traverse, which covers the 9 evolution region peaks, and to do it car to car in a day. I have heard of a few people that have done it camp to camp, and those include Peter Croft, who has done the first ascent of the route after several trips to do sections of it. Alex Hunnell did it camp to camp in a day, and Matt Samet. But those are all professional climbers, and I don't really consider myself a professional climber or being anywhere close to that. I knew that when Peter Croft did the route, Galen Rowell accompanied him, and he stopped after the 5th peak, Mountain Headlow. And Galen Rowell is a Sierra legend, so I wasn't really sure if doing the route in a day would be possible for me, but I wanted to do it car to car, which would raise the bar even more, because it would add 25 miles of hiking to the day. So this loop, I mean, this route itself is, I think, 9 miles, and it has climbing up to 5'9", which is, I don't really solo that hard, and it would be a great challenge for me. But I wanted to see if I could do it, and I wanted to dedicate this climb in memory of my friend Ben, whose favorite climb was the Evolution Traverse. My friend has done the route in 4 days, and she soloed it in 4 days after several recon trips. So I thought it was possible in general, especially when you look at it as a big thing. In general, you don't think it's possible because you think of the approach and the climb and the descent, and the total is 36 miles and 16,000 feet of elevation gain. But when you look at it in sections, like the approach will be 10 miles, the climb will be 9 miles, and people have done it camp to camp before. And then on the way back it will be just 15 miles, right? When you divide it into small sections, then it seems more doable. So to convince myself that I could somehow do it, I just convinced myself that it's more doable because if you take it into small sections, then maybe it is. But psychologically, it was really just crazy. And another thing was that I wasn't always fit, and I wasn't always secure that I could do, I used to have asthma, and I was not able to even run a lap around the track without going, without suffocating, and I used to weigh 300 pounds when I was 16 years old in high school. So I wasn't really secure about my abilities, but dedicating this climb to my friend Ben was really inspiring to me. I think helped me a lot to fight the insecurities, and actually the hardest step was just stepping out of my car, which I did after working 5 days that week, coming back to work. I worked 5 days and drove straight to the trailhead, ate a giant burrito, did not sleep 1 hour. I kind of laid there in the back of my car for a few hours, and I just started at some point after midnight. At sunrise, saw me on top of Mount Mendo, and I wasn't fully awake yet. And that's Mount Darwin behind me. And I took a photo of polemoniums because they were some of my friend Ben's favorite flowers. And on the way to Darwin, I actually slipped on some rock and I fell, and I hurt my back, and my hand was bleeding. I wasn't sure if I had to bail or not because I was in pain, but I just decided that I will take it one step at a time and keep on going because I made it this far, maybe the pain would go away, and it sort of did. This is a view of Mount Darwin from when I climbed Mount Mendo by that ice climb earlier. And this is the view of the sunken block of Mount Darwin, which was really cool. And the view from Mount Darwin was not really encouraging because I had to traverse this ridge over this peak, and then this other peak, and this peak behind it onto that peak, and then continue up this, that, these two peaks, and this was the last peak I had to do before I could, start the 15-mile hike out. So
No problem.
I just took it one step at a time, and continued going. And I really enjoyed the climbing on it. This was the Red Triangle, which is really cool knife edge ridge. And it's not as bad as it looks when you're actually climbing on it. It has really good holds on this side, and there's some cracks, and it's just really fun climbing. And I was having a good time in that, when I was there. And this is Mount Heckle's North Arret, which is one of the classic climbs, the High Sierra. And actually, when I was going up this way, a few holds snapped on me, and thank God I was always testing the holds first when they did not appear very solid, and I was able to catch myself before, falling to my death. And that's looking back towards Darwin and Heckle. The sun was going down now, and I had just one more peak to go. But I was close to bonking at that point, and probably some of the hardest climbing that came was over there. It was this crack that went from a good hand crack to a fist crack, and it had some really committing moves that I had to pull almost in full darkness and with not much energy left in me. It was really exposed to, even though this ridge is actually just class 4, I think I just found something en route that wasn't really the easiest way. And when I got to the top, I kind of just sat down, and I couldn't believe that I had done this traverse without ever reconning it like other people that have done it from camp to camp. And then I started to hike out, somehow got back to my car, and what was interesting is the hike out took a lot longer than I expected because I completely bonked on the way back. I think it took me like 7 hours or something, or 6 hours to get back from the last peak to my car. And when I got in my car, I don't remember how I got there. I basically just passed out, and some guy knocked on my window in the morning asking me if I was okay. But it happened, and actually this year, another person did this traverse car to car in 24 hours, and I talked to him, and he said that me doing it in 27 gave him some motivation to try to push himself, and it was really cool to hear that something that I did helped somebody to push themselves, to push their abilities. But he has done this traverse last year though, so he knew the route at least.
And your car was at North Lake?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And just to conclude the presentation, I just wanted to say that it's really important to, push ourselves, enjoy the scenery, do whatever peaks that we like to do, because it usually doesn't matter what other people are doing and what is challenging to other people. It matters what we are doing and what is challenging to us at the moment. And it's great to share these experiences with people that you like doing things with. It's good to have people that are excited around and do it in all these beautiful places that our range or other ranges have to offer. So thank you for listening, and get excited and go out and do things. We did not have coffee before this shot was taken, I promise. If there are any questions,